Okay, so this is our express class on Westlaw, and I usually don't teach this class, though I use Westlaw quite frequently. Usually my colleague Andrew teaches this class. My name's Jonathan. I'm the assistant law librarian here at the Fort Bend County Law Library, and I appreciate y'all joining me. And like I said, apologize for the technical difficulties. I thought the login info was one thing, and I sent that, and it turns out it was another deal. So appreciate y'all being on the class. Um, Obviously, we're dealing with all this COVID stuff as everybody has for the last almost 11 months or so. So we've been presenting these classes online only for the last several months, and at some point we hope to get back to doing classes. Both we'll probably do them in person and via Zoom, so we'll be able to present that option. So like I said, these are classes. They're usually, I don't know, 15, 30 minutes long, depending on our various resources that we have. We do classes on Tuesday, a kind of a revolving series of classes on various topics generally of interest to our pro se or self-represented people on things such as civil litigation in general, legal research, probate, family law, and the like. And then we do these classes on Thursdays in kind of a rotating group of classes about various programs that can be used, word processing type things that can be used in the legal context, and then our databases, some of the stuff that we subscribe to here at the Fort Bend County Law Library. And obviously one of the main ones is Westlaw, both in print and online through Thomson Reuters, which owns Westlaw, West Publishing. It's one of the primary, if not the most primary legal research database. Our other primary one is Lexis, which we use extensively. We have both print and online materials from them. They're both excellent. They both have, Lexis and Westlaw have overlap, obviously, in providing the most basic materials for people doing legal research. But there's some differences, obviously, in what we call secondary resources. So in the legal world, there's sort of primary law and secondary materials. Primary law is exactly kind of what it says it is. It's the statutes passed by the legislature, be it the Texas legislature or United States Congress or whoever it happens to be, and the case law from the courts, the appellate courts generally, such as the U.S. Supreme Court is the most notable one, the various mid-level appellate courts in the federal system. And then obviously there's the district courts too, and they also release some of their opinions in the federal level. The district courts are generally the trial level. The courts of appeals are kind of that middle step, your first level of appeals. And they're sort of set up regionally around the United States. Like the Texas is in the Fifth Circuit, which also comprises Louisiana and Mississippi. I think there's 11 total circuits. And then obviously there's a Supreme Court at the top of that. In Texas, it's somewhat similar. And probably most other states, there's really only one way to do this kind of. You have the trial courts, you have a layer of appellate courts above that, and then you have usually the highest court of the state. So, in Texas, we have a couple of different levels of trial courts, the district court, the county courts at law, and there's also the JP courts or small claims courts. And then we have the courts of appeals, and those are regional in Texas as well. Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, El Paso, Amarillo, I think. Anyway, there's like 14 of those around the state. And then there's the Texas Supreme Court and the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. The highest courts in Texas are bifurcated between the criminal and civil jurisdiction. And then you have the Texas legislature that passes the Texas statutes. So that's the primary law. Then you have secondary resources, and that's kind of everything else. That's practice guides, kind of things that lawyers and laypersons use to, sort of figure out how does this actually work. Talks about a multitude of legal topics, giving information on how those different processes work, forms, all the different types of forms, petitions and motions and briefs and things of that nature. And then you have what else is a secondary resource? Law review journals, scholarly articles. You've heard of like the Harvard Law Review or the University of Texas or the University of Houston Law Review. Those are secondary materials. So And both, Westlaw and Lexis have extensive secondary materials. So let's look at what particularly Westlaw has to offer. And this is, I will say, this is Westlaw Edge. If you can see up here at the upper left, our subscription is actually to Westlaw Next, I think is our one, but it's very similar. It is kind of, Westlaw 2.0 kind of thing. But it's all basically the same. So just slightly different in presentation. But we look at what we have here. This is the search bar here at the top, just kind of like you get on Google. This is Westlaw's version of the Google search bar, and you can type in as brief or as long as you would like, and it'll use its search function, its search engine, which Westlaw and Lexis too, they tweak all the time to try and get the most relevant and responsive materials to what you're seeking. So you have this search bar here, and over here on the right, you can choose what jurisdiction you want to search in, and it can be very broad as well. You can basically look in all federal, all states. If I wanted to look at everything, I could click both of these, and I'd get a whole lot of stuff. But usually people want to narrow it down. They might be looking at the federal system, but most likely here when we're in Texas, and for y'all as well, y'all would choose the Texas deal, and then you just hit save. So now over here it shows where it's going to search for what you're searching for. And so then you can just search for anything. I don't know why it always pops into my mind, but I usually use continuance. It's a common thing to search for. People oftentimes when they have a trial set in Texas, maybe they have a trial coming up and for some reason they want to seek a delay of it. Very common with lawyers, of course. But anybody sometimes needs to seek a continuance. So, let me go ahead and type that in here. And then you just hit search over here. It does suggest some things, of course, when you type in, just like Google does. When you start typing in, it'll suggest some things that are indicated by what you're typing in. I usually kind of ignore those myself, kind of because I know what I'm looking for. Other people might work differently. But then we get our results here. So, and let me see, before I get into the results, one thing I did want to talk about our subscription here at the Fort Bend Law Library to Westlaw, and it'll kind of, put in some context of then what we're looking at. Our subscription is pretty broad. We have basically everything in Texas, from bottom to top, from primary law to secondary law. So there's not much that we're lacking in the Texas side of things, both really in print and obviously online. When we expand out a little bit more into like the federal system, our secondary resources we do have secondary resources in the federal system, such as forms and practice guide materials, not as broad or deep as what we have solely for Texas, but we do have that. Then we get into the other states, say Maryland or Georgia or California. We don't really have much in the way of secondary resources for that. So if you're looking for some specific California forms, probably not going to have that. There's other sources that people can look for online for those things, but as far as from the most reliable resources that are things such as Westlaw and Lexis, we just don't have the secondary resources. We just don't have the need, really. Once in a blue moon, something comes up where someone's looking for, I need a form for Nebraska for this. And I do my best. And sometimes we are able to find some things on various resources. But, in the other states, Nebraska, we have their case law, we have their statutes. So at the very least, we have the primary law for that. But our subscription is really, really strong. So, searching for continuance, what they're going to show here on the left, they categorize the results, so you can choose amongst them. On the opening page, here on the main part of it, they show cases. Well, that's what they're showing. See, that's what's different about our two different subscriptions on Westlaw Edge and Westlaw Next. Ours sort of doesn't show. It shows everything, kind of a smattering of all the different categories. Here it breaks it down. Okay, that's the overview page. Sorry, I'm getting a little used to the Westlaw Edge difference. So overview actually looks at all the different categories of things that can be brought up by that search term continuance. Cases, trial court orders, statutes, secondary resources, under the practical law, which I'll also explain. But then you want to say, well, I want to look at cases concerning continuance. So that's when you click there on the left on the cases section, and it brings up cases, and it sorts them various ways. Here on the top, you'll see sort, and it's by relevance. So according to Westlaw, this is the most relevant case for continuance. I'm not sure if I buy that really, but these things aren't really perfect. But you sort of got to search through. This one's saying the most relevant case for the simple statement of continuance is Pruitt versus Everett from the Supreme Court of Texas in 1853. Probably because that might be the first case from the Supreme Court of Texas that dealt with this issue. But you can break it down. You can change it to date if I wanted to see the most recent cases cited on the issue of continuance, or if I want to look at the most cited cases, look at something that would be the most cited case on the issue of continuance. Or you can break it down by court level if I want to say I want to start at the Supreme Court only. So I could choose most cited. It'll change that to the most cited case apparently on continuance is this BMC software versus Marchand case out of the Supreme Court about 18 years ago. So, anyway, you can look at that and then, okay, so you say, I want to look at that case. You can just click on it. You can also open it in a new tab. I generally do that just to keep my main page up, but sometimes I think on WebEx and such, I don't want to mess up the screen I'm sharing. So I'm going to go straight to it. So we've got the case here. I can read the whole case just sitting here on the computer, or if I'm going to say, you know what, I'm doing some research here at the law library, I'm going to email it to myself. So these are the sort of some of the choices on what to do. So you got, like I said, you got the whole opinion here. If I want to email it to myself, I open up that box, I type in my email address. Over here on the right, I choose what mode or what format I would like it in. Word, PDF is probably the most common. Some folks still use WordPerfect. I've never really understood what RTF, the word processor thing is. I never use that one. Anyway, you can send it to yourself. You can also change out the layout on how you like things. There's sort of the basic one. Dual column, saves space and so forth, and kind of looks like it does in the book a little bit. Then you have content to append. If I want to say I want that, and I want a listing of the cases that have cited it, or the direct history of the case, you can include that as well. Obviously, that can be very important to you if you're going to do further research, or if you're going to be citing it in a motion or brief to the court. Obviously, very important to look at the history to make sure that the case is still valid, I guess you could say. You look up here, up in the corner, there's a little flag. These flags, if you're familiar somewhat with case histories and citation history and stuff, this is a flag that indicates it's yellow. So much like the yellow light on the traffic, it's caution. So apparently there's some issues, that maybe other courts have distinguished it, the opinion, or maybe said this isn't applicable to our situation. So there's some caution applied to this. So it doesn't mean it's been overturned or anything. That would be like red, kind of like, watch out, there's something, very negative treatment of this case. It could have been reversed or something like that. And then there's other ones, there's green, which basically means it's, fairly pristine and, has not been questioned or whatever. So, real handy. And this applies to a lot of the other things, the way you can send cases to yourself. It's just really user friendly. And obviously in the era of COVID where things are closed and the ability of people to go to libraries and so forth has been restricted at times. I can send stuff to you, and y'all have got my email address, and I'll touch base with you again. You're always welcome to email me, call the law library, and we'll provide you with materials that you need. We can send stuff to you, cases and statutes and secondary materials, forms, and so forth. So let's look a little bit about that. There's other things that can be brought up by searching for continuance. So we look over here on our results on the left, and now we got statutes. So there's different statutes and rules and so forth that are going to be brought up by that search term. legislative continuance. So this is in the Civil Practice and Remedies Code, talking about if a lawyer is also a member of the legislature and they got a trial going on at the same time that the legislature is in session, they can seek a continuance based on their role as a legislator. Obviously, that's not that common, but it does get used sometimes. I've been involved in a case one time where that was done. Rule 251, this and Rule 252, I think, are kind of two of the main basic rules on continuance in the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. So the same thing. You can open this up. You can send that rule to yourself. Really handy. Let's look at let me break it up here. So then scrolling down, forms. This is kind of, some of the main things obviously people are seeking when they come to the law library are forms, cases, statutes. Forms is obviously a big thing, and people always want a form, whether you're a lawyer or just a self-represented person. Different forms, and this shows some of the other secondary, what we would call secondary resources in Westlaw, the form books. So here's an order for continuance from West Texas Forms. And that's one of the main, Westlaw form books. And it's the order that the court would, you can utilize to give to the court. So when you file something with the court, a motion for continuance, say, please continue the case for these reasons. This is the legal basis for asking for it. Here's the affidavit in support of that motion. And then you want the court to sign an order that will put into effect what you've sought if the court grants your motion and agrees with it. And so this is just, really, and one thing about Westlaw often is it mostly just provides the bulk or the operative part of the form you're seeking. So they often don't include the caption and the other things in the form. You sort of have to oftentimes put that together from other stuff, and lawyers are very familiar with that, so it's no problem for them. They just said, okay, here's the operative paragraph I need. Here's the sort of the meat of the order that the court would sign. And the caption, is the part that you put on the top. It identifies the case, the parties, and the name of the case, the cause number. And then there's other parts of the typical pleadings and stuff, so like an emotion or whatever. You have the signature block, where you sign the document, whether you're an attorney or a pro se person. You have the certificate of service when you're sending something, when you're filing something with the court, such as a motion, you have to send it to the other side, and that certificate of service that's included in any, pleading like a motion, has to certify that, hey, I've sent a copy of this document to the other side. You have to do that, fair notice and so forth. And so there's some of the components sometimes are, let's say, not missing, but just not included in Westlaw's forms. And there are ways to find it. You can, oftentimes there's a link to say, hey, if you need the caption, go to this page. So sometimes, Westlaw's stuff, and this isn't a knock, it's just, it's not maybe as user-friendly especially for pro se folks. So kind of bear that in mind. So let's go back to where we were. So here we are, and just like I said, there's all kinds of different forms that were brought up by this search. Okay, so let's kind of go back to the beginning. That sort of shows you, the results that are brought up by a search in various categories and how you can utilize them. You can send it to yourself in Word or PDF, however you want to use it. Real user friendly. So let's go back to the beginning. I just hit the Westlaw Edge here. This is kind of the home deal. And let's look at a few other things that are available, or a few other ways of accessing stuff on Westlaw. And it's, like I said, it's similar to Lexis as well. A lot of what I'm telling you is kind of, if you take my Lexis class, which I also teach about every other month or so, we kind of go through the similar look at Lexis and just kind of look at some of the differences that they have. So one of the things is secondary resources. So, it's all well and good to have the case law and the statutes, but what about secondary sources? I'm a lawyer, but I don't know everything if I'm a lawyer. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I've never dealt with that. So I might go look at the secondary resources. So I've clicked on that. And like I said, it kind of tells you, what happens in the real world. How does this really set up? What is the process for this certain thing? So if I was looking at continuance, I might look at, okay, what are just it's a description of what happens when you seek a motion for continuance, the process by which you would do it, the standards that are applied to it, the applicable rules, and so forth. What you have to show, um, those sorts of things. So they break down the secondary resources, by type, such as law reviews, and they also break it down by state. If I wanted to look at the secondary resources that are exclusive or to Texas, uh, and they also do it by topic. Family law, which is a very common thing that we deal with here at the law library, uh, and then you got by publication series. And I'm kind of going to jump a little bit to things that it might not occur to most people just because they're not as familiar with legal resources. But one of the primary things about Westlaw that we utilize, and the lawyers use it, and we utilize it to assist the self-represented folks, the pro se people, is OConnors. OConnors used to be a separate company published by, I think it was Jones McClure Publishing, the O'Connors series, which was started, I don't know, 30 years ago or more by former Justice Michael O'Connor, and that's a lady, Justice O'Connor, and she wrote, I think the first book was Texas Rules Civil Trials. And like I said, it's a practice guide for all manner of issues for civil litigation. And she expanded from there to form books, criminal stuff, stuff in the federal arena, and so forth. So it's a really utilized resource. When I was in practice, I used it every day. I had a couple of copies of different O'Connor's books on my desk, and it's something that I looked at, I'm sure, almost every day. It's kind of weird in that it's such a prominent thing, especially for folks here in Texas. That if you're a lawyer, like I said, if you don't have O'Connor's on your desk or on your subscription, you're probably not a good idea. I'm not going to say you're committing malpractice, but you're missing out on something that's a valuable resource. Just like I think about Lexis, there's a couple of resources on there. If you're a civil litigator and you don't have access to Darcinio's Texas Litigation Guide, you're missing out. It's important. It's got really good stuff, very helpful. So let's look at, it's weird. O'Connor's, they kind of bury it on, not to say buried on here, but it's, if I was running Westlaw, I'd make it a little more prominent. Like I said, this ain't a knock on Westlaw. It's an awesome product. We use it every day. Lawyers who come in here use it every day, and we, our pro se folks, are beneficiaries of it as well. And I talk about lawyers coming in here. We are, again, fully closed to the public and to lawyers. Nobody can come inside the law library. We are here. We've always been here through all this. For a short period of time at the beginning of this, the county did kind of a shutdown deal for about 6 weeks, and we worked from home. But then we came back right around the first Monday in May, and we've been here ever since. And then we've operated under a couple of different rubrics since, depending on what's going on with COVID and so forth. So we reopened to lawyers who could come inside. We keep on assisting pro se, self-represented folks who come to the door, and they can't come inside. And we've been providing them forms and information. If I can't provide them something right here and now, I email it to them and so forth. And that's often what I do anyway, for them to have it in usable form, to be able to take it home and digest it and use it. You need to send it to them anyway, via Word or whatever. And then there was a period of time where everybody was coming back into the law library, pro se folks, attorneys, for a period of time, when things had kind of gotten a little better, for whatever that's worth. We had everybody coming inside, obviously subject to social distancing, and not all our computers are available. Then we had to retract that. It was back to attorneys only. And now we've had to go back where no one can come in, but we're still here. I know it's inconvenient and so forth, but we're still here providing materials to folks. We meet them at the door. We emails and phone calls. We can make copies and stuff still for folks, and scan stuff in and fax stuff for folks. And so I know everybody's tired of this, and we're all ready to get back to normal and such. And so we look forward to that too. But we're here to keep on providing services to the best we can under this current deal. So with that in mind, let's jump back to O'Connor's, something I use regularly here in assisting folks. and they're really good. It's a great resource. The primary there's so that it's broken down into kind of a codes and rules. O'Connors takes various codes such as the Code of Criminal Procedure or the Estates Code, which deals with probate matters, the Family Code, and provides an expanded look at the those applicable laws. Then we have the commentaries, and this is sort of what I'm talking about, where the sort of the rubber meets the road. This is how a practical look at what's going on. So you got O'Connor's Rules, Texas Rules Civil Trials. Probably their first book, and it's broken down into various topics. And then there's subtopics within there. And you can search here up at the top. You can use this search bar and you can search within this particular resource. I could search again for continuance or whatever. Or if you're a little more familiar with the resource, you might go to start looking straight at it. Look at pretrial motions. Motion for continuance is one of those. So it kind of lists a lot of different things. A lot of different types of motions. So then I can expand the menu even more. There's motion for continuance, and this gives information about motions for continuance, general stuff, deadlines. What about the response? So just like I said, this is sort of the practical information. Let's just take a look at one of them. The general overview of the law regarding continuances. A motion for continuance is a request to postpone or delay a case, blah, blah, blah. And then it cites to a certain rule, and it cites to other materials that you can link to from there. It also cites to a form that you can use, and we'll go back to that. So like I said, and the same thing, you can send those things to yourself as well. And then you got down here, it kind of as an appendix because it's talking about the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure and the Texas Rules of Evidence and the Texas Rules of Appellate Procedure. They have the rules themselves here. And so that's obviously very useful. And then some of the other O'Connor's materials kind of tying in with that is O'Connor's Texas Civil Forms. We have family law forms, O'Connor's Texas Family Law Handbook. Like I said, family law is something we deal with extensively here. And so, there's just all kinds of things. Modification. So say a divorce is granted and the parties, somewhere down the road, a couple years later, after the divorce, circumstances have changed. Something needs to be altered in the decree, maybe regarding child support or custody and possession, whatever it happens to be, something needs to be changed. And so this is the chapter on that. And again, providing information on modification of these issues, modifying child support, modifying conservatorship, which is custody. And so it's just, again, O'Connor's is just in Texas, it's an invaluable resource and something I always point out. It's one of the primary things on Westlaw, at least in my view, for usage by attorneys and pro se folks in Texas. So let's look at one more thing, and then I'll let you go. I know I've gone a little bit late, and then I got started late, so I do apologize for that. But so let's look at a thing called practical law. This is relatively new. It's been around, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, and it's a kind of a growing part of what's offered by Westlaw, and it's broken down by topic. And so this is what goes on for practical law is they're looking at various broad legal topics, such as you'll see, say, litigation or arbitration or other things. And it's not complete yet, I would say. This is sort of a growing part of Westlaw's offerings, and they're sort of trying to do it. They don't have stuff on family law and so forth. But what these are is sort of groupings of related materials on these topics. So in litigation, there's different types of topics, and sort of they put together stuff on topics such as the law, the motions, the forms together. And it's something that I use. I don't use it a lot, but I do use it for certain things. I know one issue that comes up sometimes for people is temporary restraining orders. Folks come in seeking temporary restraining orders, and this is one of the resources that I use for temporary restraining orders, and you can look for it by jurisdiction. So we have it by Texas here, and the topics under Texas litigation. Like I said, there's practice notes, there's forms, there's all different types of resources. This is a little different than it's presented. There's toolkits, which means sort of everything together. Standard documents you'll see here, checklists, standard clauses. So it can be kind of helpful. We're getting kind of the full overview of related materials on a particular topic. And these are written by lawyers. And we're going to look at the toolkits that they have on a couple of different topics. So one of the ones, like I said, that I use, and this is just a case of learning the material and kind of looking through here. And I can't say I'm an expert on practical law, but there's a few things that I do use it for. One of them is the Temporary Injunctive Relief Toolkit. And it's most helpful if the person is here. I will say that. So hopefully we'll, like I said, get back to normal someday. But it just has all different types of things related to temporary restraining orders. You often hear people, I want to get a temporary restraining order. And these things are often used at the commencement of litigation. So what's the context of a temporary restraining order? Say I'm two business partners are having a dispute and maybe one business partner sues the other for fraud or breach of contract or something like that. And in the meantime, they're worried about the assets and so forth that are owned by the partners in the partnership, and their ability to maybe do something in relationship to those assets. So the court, in addition to maybe seeking, maybe suing, say your partner in your partnership, you're like, well, I want to maintain the partnership assets, and so there might be a temporary restraining order, restraining anybody from doing anything with the resources of the partnership, or whatever it happens to be, to kind of maintain the status quo, to try to keep parties from doing maybe potentially destructive or negative things. And so in addition to filing a petition, you might file an application for a temporary restraining order. And that's just what this is called, temporary injunctive relief. There's also, And so there's just different parts of this practice, standard documents and clauses. And it is kind of a checklist and gives kind of a full overview and resources for particular topics. So, it's something that I try to get more familiar with. And, again, it's something that's very, very useful, or can be, in these particular areas. So let me go back to the main page. While I'm kind of going back, is there any questions that y'all have about Westlaw? Maybe something that is of interest to you for Westlaw? Here we are back to the page.
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, like I said, we have a great subscription to Westlaw, and we are here to provide materials for you if you need them. So if you ever need anything on a particular topic, even if when we come back to being fully open, we're always available and glad to help people. Sometimes we're at a distance, and whether you live on the other side of town or another part of the state, or even outside of the state, you can email us and give us a call, and we're glad to send stuff to you. The modern age is at least very user friendly and allows us to send things to folks in a very useful form to them. So, Westlaw, we couldn't do it without Westlaw, both from a print side of things and a legal databases side of things. And I will just say one more thing about it. Most of what we have both in print and online. We sort of have the print version and the online corollary, and it's a nice mix, for people to use. Sometimes people are more comfortable with using books to maybe start their research or whatever, and then they maybe use the computer for ease of access. You're like, okay, that's the motion I want. Then we can go on Westlaw and send it to them in a usable form for them. But some people, and obviously, it doesn't matter what age, but obviously sometimes younger lawyers and stuff that's all they really know, is the online version of it. And so they jump to that first. So either way, it works for you. We've got materials in both ways. So anyway, I just want to thank you for being on the on the class, please feel free to give us a call. My number is 281-341-3718, and I have your emails, and so I'll email you just a follow up from this. And like I said, if ever I can be of service, do not hesitate to ask. Thank you for attending. Bye.
Mr. Riggs,
Yeah,
Mr. Riggs, would you click on practical law for me, please? I want to look for something for bankruptcy.
yeah.
Let's go on to bankruptcy. Let's see if we can find something there. Right, seeing the chapter. Let's go take a look at individual bankruptcy, please. Right up here on the right, individual bank. Yes, sir. Let's see what's happening there.
And we've got bankruptcy stuff both, on Lexis and Westlaw.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I can take a look at it on Westlaw, on Lexis. And okay.
Yeah, we have, on Lexis, both on the digital library, and I don't know if you ended up getting that temporary access
I did.
through Lexis Advance. And, there's a thing on there. It's called Colliers on Bankruptcy. And
Yes.
that thing is crazy. It's got in book form here, it's about 30 volumes.
Right. All right. Scroll down just a little bit more on this bankruptcy. Okay, let's see. Liquidity. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, you bet.
And I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much for the session. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Ms. Perkins. Thank you.
All right.
All right, bye.